Oh, there we go. Okay. Hi, guys. I'm hoping that this is working. I couldn't get the camera to work. Anyway, aloha, everybody. Today it's October 4th, and this is my live coaching. Please put your questions in the chat box. Then I'm able to coach you guys. I thought I would talk a little bit about a couple of things. I have just some questions coming in from traders, and also I posted on YouTube a commentary about a interview with Bryan Cranston, the actor, that's kind of going out there a bit on social media, and it's such a great interview, so I wanted to talk about that too. But I'm going to just see if there's any questions first that anybody has. And I'm hoping that everybody's had a good day. The market has been so volatile, so I'm hoping everybody is safe. And just let me know if there's anything specific you want me to coach you on or address, because at the end of the day, this is more powerful when I have questions to riff off. Okay, good, Mako. I'm so glad you're here. Yes, I did send you an email saying I had some coaching tips for healing previous losses. So I saw the email you just sent in reference to writing it down or journaling. And what I want to specifically suggest is when we write things down, and I'm a huge advocate of that, but it is different than feeling. We can't think our feelings through. We have to feel our feelings through. There's a big difference. Cognitively thinking back to a loss, cognitively thinking about why did I do that? Also, the word why, I just want to point out, the word why is a very tricky word because it has a tendency to elicit justifying or explaining, justifying, defending, so to speak. Like, think about it. When you hear the word, why did you do that, right? What happens internally? We kind of go into a contraction. We start to go into resistance. Our hands go across our chest and we start to, kind of get defensive. So my suggestion is to replace the word why with the word what. What is that about? I wonder what is going on. I wonder what is happening for me right now. Just switching that word shifts our ability to be more open and to be able to be more kind of flexible to the inquiry, right? Because an inquiry, which is what, when we're wondering what is going on for us, that's what it is. It's an inquiry. But anytime we have an inquiry, we want to be sure that that inquiry is neutral and that we're not stepping into judgment or blame, right? So the two things I always suggest to clients is that you come into whatever you're in the midst of from a place of neutrality and a place of curiosity, because that allows you to actually not go into a contraction and tighten up, but it allows you to open up with spaciousness. And that's what I'm an advocate of. Aloha, Shane. Aloha, Tina. So glad you guys are here too. So Mako, answer me if that feels like it's a different approach than what you were saying. Also, what I want to suggest, I'm not sure which live coaching it was. It was probably from 2 days ago. I think it was last Friday. I don't know if Shane and Tina, you guys remember, but there's an exercise that I'd love for you to do, Mako, which is you taking that elevator from your brain into your body and having you practice. Good. I'm really glad. That's what I want to suggest that you do. Because that old loss or losses are still stuck inside of you. They're kind of inside your body, right? That's where emotions that we haven't let ourselves fully feel yet, or that are stuck and repeating, which is what PTSD is, right? PTSD is post-traumatic stress. And I'm sure what happened, guys, but the live stream shut down. So anyway, I'm back though. Hopefully you guys are there. I'm not sure what happened. It just gave me notice that live stream shut down. Anyway, the heart of the matter, Mako, is that the only way we can get past unresolved trauma, unresolved pain, is to feel it. We can't think our way through our feelings. We have to feel our way through our feelings. Also, that practice and there's a couple of teachers who I speak to all the time and advocate their books. One of them is called Waking the Tiger by Peter Levine. The other one is called The One Thing Holding You Back by Raphael Kushner. They both have more than one book, but I'm trying to not overwhelm you guys with the books because I read so many books, but those two books are very good to teach this technique. Raphael Kushner's work, and he has a lot of stuff free on his website too. I think it's kushner.com, Mako, that you can go to. And it's his practice that I walk everybody through here on Friday, because that practice is the practice that I myself have learned how to use, and of course now try to teach other people. Okay, hopefully that helps, Mako, for you to ultimately move through, because if it's okay with you, Mako, I just would love to speak to, so everybody who's watching understands what you and I were talking about. Mako had sent a request about how to navigate that he was cutting his trades too soon because of some old losses that kept kind of, making him afraid to, have a loss again, which I think is a very common occurrence. So the key here, guys, is for any old experiences in your trading that you suspect are still informing how you trade today, you want to consciously heal those old experiences, those old patterns. They are going to hinder the future of your trading. They are going to hinder your ability to transcend them. They are going to be kind of like this ball and chain on your leg that you're going to drag with you into every trade. And you don't want to do that. It's not going to help you. So please think about this. Think about, wow, am I still dealing with an old emotion around loss? Am I dealing with an old emote that I haven't processed yet? Because again, if you haven't truly felt it, then you aren't free of it. And that is key, because every time you go to your desk, you go to a screen, you need to really get that you have to come in neutral. And if you're bringing all these past experiences with you that were costly, then they are going to repeatedly be the lens you potentially see out of with whatever's in front of you. Ultimately, you want to come to your trading every day with beginner's mind. Now, let me caveat that to say, yes, you want beginner's mind, but you will always be bringing your experience with you in the sense of your screen time. So imagine this combination of hours of trading, hours of screen time, hours of wisdom gathered without hours of trauma, hours of fear, hours of, terror. Like, imagine being able to come in with just the knowledge pool that you have built brick by brick, day by day, hour by hour, but with none of the old fears or the old traumas. That is what you ultimately want to approach your trading with. that is you coming into your trading with beginner's mind. So I'll pause there, see if anybody has any questions. Please put them in the chat box, either Tina or Shane, if you guys have any more. Mako, I hope that was helpful to you. And if you guys are willing to help spread the word that we're on here now, that would be great. And tell me if you guys have anything specific you want me to talk about. Hi, Dale. I'm so glad you're here. It's good to have you. Good. Mako, I'm so glad that that's helpful. Very happy to hear it. I have, I'm going to, so what's happening with my small group coaching, guys. Currently, the one for the accelerated, which is for sophisticated traders, starts this Thursday night. But then what I'm going to do is launch a second group. And that second group, I'm not sure what the set date will be, but once people sign up for it, then I'll define the date. But that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to kind of do these on a rotating schedule. Yes, you do have some work to do, Mako, but this work will be at least work that gets you someplace, right? Look, journaling out hard to be with feelings is a great first step. I think that's fantastic. You're doing that. I want you to do that. But I also want you to feel that hard to be with feeling and the grief. There's probably grief caught up in that loss. There's possibly shame caught up in that loss from a while back. And all of those are the feelings that as soon as you get into the neighborhood of, you start to shut down and pull your trades because you don't want to have to be with that feeling again. But here's a famous quote that you guys probably have heard me say multiple times, which is that the cave we fear to, tell me if the sound is okay, guys. I just noticed one of the tech buttons was not in the right position. So tell me if my sound is not good. I just maybe changed it. But the quote from Joe Campbell is, the cave we fear to enter is where the treasure lies, right? He also speaks about the dragons that we're afraid to face. Okay, good. Thank you, Tina, so much. Thank you, Mike. Glad you're here. The dragon we fear to face, the cave we fear to enter, these are the requirements of any hero's journey. Any hero's journey is going to ask something of us. And that is what each of you each are on your own hero's journey. Whether you are looking at this from a trading lens as a trader, or if you're looking at this from the landscape of your life, if you want to grow, if you want to up level, guys, I hate to break it to you, you're going to have to face some dragons. You're going to have to walk into some very dark, uncomfortable caves. This is part of what the hero's adventure is all about. But you are never alone. Every hero there ever has been before you, from Neo in the Matrix, fictional heroes, right? Like him and Harry Potter or Luke Skywalker. This is the heroic journey. They are just giving us stories of what each of us must go through to level up. If you had a challenging childhood, guess what? That is the perfect foundation for a heroic adventure. You're going to have to transcend that dysfunctional family you may have come from. You're going to have to transcend those limiting beliefs. You're going to have to transcend them telling you that you were not good enough or worthy enough or strong enough or smart enough or lovable enough. Like, that is all fodder for the hero's journey. And what I want everybody to do is embrace whatever their fucking journey has been, no matter how hard it's been. I want you to be like, yeah, that shit is going to be the fuel for me to rise from the ashes. That is going to be me up leveling right past all that crap that I had laid upon me in my youth or in my 20s or in my 30s or 40s or 50s. You can level up at every age. So don't ever think that you're a victim of circumstance or life or your parents or your journey. You are actually seeing all of those moments as crucible moments that are calling you forth. birthing you. There is not a birth that has ever taken place that is not usually painful. The same is true for you. You are all here to birth yourself. Maybe at some point, you didn't, you kind of figured this out at some point, but now I want you to embrace it. Am I here to birth myself? And if I am, what's going to help me get birthed? All right, I went on a tangent there, but Shane, I see your question. I'm going to answer it now. Shane says, the talk last night about the blue collar mindset resonated with me. I have the ability to size up, but I haven't been able to do so mentally. Wow, Shane, I'm so happy to hear that. And I'm really proud of you for looking really deep at that, because that blue collar mindset is a big part of what I see stops traders, because there is a collection of things like shame attached to, succeeding at a certain level. And I told you guys today I was going to bring this book's title today, but I completely forgot. So I'm trying to look it up right now on Amazon so I can speak to it. And it was written by a journalist. Dang it. Actually, you know what? I sent it to a client. So let me quickly look, because if I look at my sent box, I'll see the name of the book. So let me just look that up. I'm not checking my texts. I'm looking up the damn book, guys. All right, let's see, because I sent it in the subject line to her a while back. So let me just see but this book, I totally think, Shane, because it's resonating with you, it probably would be worth reading. I think this book is worth reading for anybody who's coming from a blue collar, background, middle class background, or lower middle class for that matter. Sugar, I'm not seeing it. I thought I put it in the subject line for her. Let me just keep looking here quickly. Anyway, this book, I will get the title, guys. I have a lot of books, as you guys know, in my office, but I also have a lot of books at my house. And that book is at my house because I think I picked it up again recently. Sometimes I reread books, but the heart of that book is just it. I think more than anything, it's not a how-to book, Shane. This is just simply a book that speaks to how there is kind of this, it's almost like an invisible sense of shame that anybody who comes from poor middle class background will have in their environment. And I think changing collars, that's not it, Mike, but thank you, man, for looking it up. That is not the title. It's something like blue collar, white collar dreams. So it's white collar and blue collar, I think, are in the title. I'm just going to look on my bookshelf here to just make sure it's not here, because I thought I had brought it in for somebody else, but no, I don't see it here. I think it's at home on my bookshelf. I'm pretty sure it's got white collar. It's like blue collar something and white collar dreams or something to that effect. But we'll get that title, Shane, for you and for you, Mike, and for everybody, because I think a lot of people who come from that poor middle class background struggle with up leveling. And just let's talk about what you wrote here, Shane, right? This concept, this ability to size up. But there's like some resistance mentally for you at sizing up. Part of that is because when we grow up in whatever that financial environment is that our parents or caretakers have, we start to just associate ourselves with it without question. It's the water, like a fish that, we're swimming in. I'm going to share something about my own journey because I think it might help. My mom and dad, after they got divorced, that's it. Blue collar roots, white collar dreams. That's it, Mike. Good job. Good job. Okay, that's the title, people. Blue collar roots, white collar dreams. If you come from a blue collar background, or your family does, read that book, guys, because it'll just help you just unpack all that's there. Thank you, Alfred Lubrano. You rock, Mike. I totally owe you, man. I'm so glad you found it. You saved my ass. So one of the things that happened after my parents got divorced was that my mother's lifestyle did not go very well. And so I would visit my dad every other weekend, and my dad was definitely living a different lifestyle than I was living with my mom. And so what happened is it was like the height of the 80s with Brooke Shields, and Calvin Kleins were like the it jeans. And I lusted after this pair of velvet Calvin Klein jeans. I wanted them so bad. I could taste it. I still remember how much I wanted those jeans. And I got them. And I qualified for free lunch at high school. So I had a free lunch pass based on my mother's income. So I had these jeans on, which I had gotten at my dad's house on the weekend. One of the weekends, I probably talked him into getting these damn things for me. And I showed the free lunch, lunch lady who takes the passes. I showed her my free lunch card. And this is what she did. She looked me up and down because these very expensive pants I had on, probably $200 pants. And she looked at my lunch card. Now, she never said anything, but she let me know in that moment. She was like, how do you have a free lunch card, girl, and have these, unbelievably expensive pants on? And I remember that moment viscerally, realizing that what you wear is going to impact how people view you. And that if you have a free lunch card, you better not wear those velvet Calvin Klein $200 pairs of, jeans. So it was a rude awakening. I couldn't have been more than 14 or 15 years old. But what it taught me was the feeling of like, ooh, there was a disconnect, right? What the poverty represented with that free lunch card and this wealthy kind of pair of pants. So at some point, because I was living these two extreme lifestyles, I was living really like a rich kid on the weekends and a poor kid during the week. And it was very confusing for me. In a lot of ways, though, I have to tell you guys, I feel so fortunate for that unusual life that I lived, because it has taught me, because I lived these two different roles, I am able to be comfortable with people on all sides of the tracks, as they say. I can dress down and hang out in somebody's garage with a couple of cold beers for the night and just talk story, or I can go to the fanciest location on this island and get on well with royalty. Like, I have the ability to not affiliate now or associate with a certain class, financial class, or caste system, so to speak. I feel like I can change my colors, change my clothes, change my presentation to fit in wherever that is. But part of the hardest thing I see completely is for people who come at all from a poor middle class background to transcend into a wealthier location. And the first example I have of that for myself was when my father belonged to a country club. And I remember walking into this country club, sitting, playing in the pool at this country club, and feeling like, I don't belong here. I don't have a right to be here because I am poor, because I am poor during the week. But then I realized on the weekends, I wasn't poor. Now I was rich. Now I was a different kind of kid. And so that kind of shift, I had to adjust to it in my teens, which is, already a difficult time. But what it taught me was that it was just a mindset. I had a mindset that I wasn't worth this country club pool, right? That was internal. That wasn't the truth. I'm worthy anywhere. So are you guys. So that's what I think, Shane, might be worth you looking at, right? Maybe it's this book that you're going to read that's going to help you kind of unpack it a little bit. Maybe it's just being with it. Maybe it's ruminating upon it. That alone is going to do it for you. Maybe it's reading that T. Harv Eker books, The Secrets of the Millionaire Mind, because he talks about that thermostat setting and how we have to change that thermostat setting if we want to be able to remove that invisible ceiling or glass ceiling, they'll call it sometimes, that's above us, and do some work around your relationship to money. Did you, Shane, do that assessment that's online about the relationship to money? I don't know if you ever caught that link that somebody found it or I found it, but if you didn't do it, Shane, I would recommend you do that. And if you can't, you did. Okay, what did you get? What did you get for your results? You'll have to remind me. I can't remember what you got. And one of the things, even if you don't, even if you don't get scores in this direction, there's something called the money monk. I was 12 at a masser. Okay, so a massers are interesting, right? And in a lot of ways, like, again, it's no judgment on any of these handles that she gives to us. A 12 on a masser, 4 on a spender, 3 on a hoarder. Okay, so you didn't get any for the money monk then, I think, right? Because I don't think there's many more questions than that, 16, 17, 18, 19. Did you get any money monk? The money monk is very fascinating because the concept is that some people will see money as dirty or wrong. But here's some homework for you, Shane. I would do some homework around what are your opinions of people that are rich? What are your beliefs about people who have a lot of money? I would do some exploration about what and how you view people who are rich. And that is such a subjective term. What might be rich to you may not be rich to somebody else, right? So come up with who is rich? You had one for the monk. Okay. All right. So, but the amasser is interesting, right? And I think sometimes I believe she sort of kind of leans towards being an amasser is the best of all of them, but I really don't. And again, hers is a free assessment. It's a very basic, it's not going to give you like a robust pulling apart thing, but look, it's better than nothing, right? But I think you want to look at the concept of being an amasser and look underneath it. Don't judge it, but look underneath it for, is there something afoot underneath that amassing that has to do with the fear, right? Or the fear of poverty again, or the fear of scarcity, or the fear of not having enough, right? There's a lot of things that growing up in a middle class background can put upon us, which is nobody wants to go back to it again, right? So it's always worth looking at, like, and this happened in one of the Investors Underground rooms. I had done some questions, money issue. It had to do with trading, but there was something about money for somebody, and if they had grown up in a poor middle class background, and it was about a bike. It was about a bike, I think, that he wanted and couldn't get because it was beyond his family's means, and just we have. One of the things, I don't know if T. Harv Eker has this, or again, I've read so many books on money, I mix them up sometimes, but one of the books talks about go back to your first experience with money. How old were you, and what happened when you really understood the concept of money? Like, was it like a pair of jeans that you couldn't afford to get? Was it a bike that your family couldn't afford to get? It's always good to look back at when our first moments of tuning into money and what it has to do with us. What happened. And something else happened to me when I was little too about money that I'll share with you guys. Okay, Shane says, I've read a bit about money, so I might have a slightly biased opinion on money due to my own research. Shane, that's such a good thing for you to see and observe about yourself. I think it's easy for all of us to have a bias based on the books we've read. What I can say, though, Shane, is I think it's fabulous that you're reading about money. That is the first step. But I would mix it up. I would read other books on money that maybe diverge from the mainstream books that you've read. What's that book that's pretty popular now? Is it called The Psychology of Money? Let me just look it up quick here. It's the guy that works for a fund. I think it's The Psychology of Money. It's a great book. You probably already read it, Shane, if you read a lot on money. But it's such a great book. But it is. It's called The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. This is a great book too. I would read that, Shane. But the other books that I would love for you to read are very spiritual, and they are very powerful. One of them is called It's Not Your Money. Whew, that book is incredible. Another book I'm going to recommend is a book called The Soul of Money. That's by Lynn Twist. Oh my God, that book hit me like a ton of bricks. Another book that I absolutely love, and I quote quite a bit in my book, Transforming Wall Street, is a book called Money is Love, and that's by Barbara Wilder. The other book is by, what is this guy's name? I think it's called The Secret to Money is Having Some, and that is also a spiritual teacher. These are books that are probably outside the area that perhaps you've read books from. See what happens, Shane. See if it just mixes things up a little bit. I have a weekly email, and it's called Curtin Call, which is a play on my last name because, my last name has no A in it. So I spell it Curtin like I spell a curtain call. But that I talked this morning about how, we need to mix it up. We need a pattern interrupt sometimes. So if the books you're reading, guys, are all very cerebral and very kind of like, psychology based, and like sometimes you got to mix it up. I'm a very spiritual person. I'm very cerebral. I'm very, cognitive. I overthink all the time. And I'm always like thinking. But there's times when I need to be, and I need to always make sure that my spiritual side is being nourished. So these are books that have helped that spiritual side, because I feel it's a combination. It's a balance, vegetable and mineral, so to speak. What was the other? There was another book that was just coming to me. Oh, I know. This is a good book for everybody here, but Shane, especially for you. And I know I'm saying so many books. You don't have to read all of these books, guys. But look at these books and then decide, this is the book for me. Maybe 2 books are for me. You don't have to read them in 5 seconds. Just find the one that speaks to you the most. Something hit you about this Blue Collar, White Collar Dreams book, then that may be the one for you. But this other book that's fabulous is called How to Make One Hell of a Profit and Still Go to Heaven. And that is by DeMartini. And that book, I think, especially too, for maybe not for you, Shane, because you have low score on the Money Monk side, but that I've seen be very helpful to people who truly are coming with whatever line of work they do, because you guys know I coach outside of just traders. I coach everybody, anybody that wants to get coached. It specifically speaks to how some people think that it's somehow not pure to make a lot of money, or holy to make a lot of money, or good, or you're not a good person. Like, there are derogatory statements all the time about rich people. And when I bumped into this the most was right after the 2008 crisis. Understandably, everybody was freaked out. Even people who were very wealthy lost a lot of money then. And there was something called the Occupy Wall Street movement. Now, I don't know if you guys know this or not, but I had launched my coaching business in 2006. And I started out really strong, had a lot of clients. I was still getting my certification as a coach. So I was, gave everybody kind of a discount on my pricing. And I had plenty of clients going into my first certification class. Like, I think I was just born to do this. And I was naturally mimicking what my coach was doing with me. And ultimately, the summer of 2008, everything kind of stopped and fell off a cliff. It was very scary because I walked away from, a crazy 6-figure salary in Wall Street and crazy bonuses. I was doing so well there. So to leave and start my own business was sort of like, a bit of a talk about walking into a dark cave and being afraid of facing a dragon. But I did it, and I was struggling for business, and a good friend said to me, what if you coached for free? And so I sat outside the stock exchange and coached outside the stock exchange for 1 year on a bench with a sign that said the coach is in, like Lucy and the Peanuts, except instead of said the doctor is in, mine said the coach is in. And I coached there for 1 year. I coached passersby. I coached traders from the stock exchange floor. I coached former CEOs of companies that had just been fired or laid off. I coached bike messengers, secretaries, you name it. I coached them for 1 year. So when Occupy Wall Street opened up down the street in Zuccotti Park, I walked through it and I started to realize how anti they were towards money. And they were collapsing, of course. What had happened with capitalism was corruption that fucked everybody over, and incompetence in 2008. It wasn't, capitalism. That is what I was hearing among these kids. But what it also was teaching young people is that if you had money, you were somehow a bad person. And I think that is always been out there. Look, we even have that Bible quote. It's harder for a rich man to get into heaven than it is through the eye, what a camel to get through the eye of a needle, right? Money doesn't grow on trees. Like, you can come up with all the catchphrases our culture has around money and people's opinion about money being bad or dirty or wrong. So all of those are invisible things that each of us, unless we are conscious to them, could be driven by. All right, Shane, I'm going to look at the rest of your message here. To go into detail, I can easily make in trading what I basically make in a day at my 9 to 5. Having trouble getting past that amount of P&L, but I have the ability to. So Shane, I think what you're saying is that right now you are possibly in an unconscious way holding yourself back from making in your trading what you currently do in your 9 to 5 job, and that you're okay, and that you are having trouble getting past that amount in your P&L. So it's possible that your 9 to 5, do you remember what I was talking about yesterday, Shane, in reference to how sometimes we have a belief that the only way we can make money is if we work hard for it, right? Yeah, subconscious limiting belief. Exactly. So I suspect that it's possible that you have an old belief, an old story, that the only way it's okay for you to make a certain amount of money is if you work hard or work many hours at it, so to speak. These invisible beliefs might be what you need to pull apart for yourself to transcend it. So I would spend a lot of time on some due diligence of what are your money beliefs. And all of those spiritual books that I just spoke to, each of them are going to give you questions. And here's one question for you to work on. That was you, Mike, who wrote Subconscious Limiting Belief. Yes, good, Shane, I'm glad you remembered that. So that unconscious limiting belief, subconscious limiting belief, I would write down if I were to interview money, I were to talk to money, your relationship to money. Think of money as an intimate partner. Think of money as like your brother or sister. Not like your brother and sister, but like a relative. Better to say it that way. If I went to go interview money and ask money, like, hey, money, how does Shane treat you? What's Shane's relationship to you? Imagine money could talk. What would it say about you, Shane? What would it say about how you treat it? Maybe we need to work out while we are studying. This way it feels physically hard. That's very funny, Tina. I think that could work, but I don't think your subconscious is going to be fooled. But that's a great idea. I mean, honestly, one of the gals that works on my team, her husband hooked up her laptop. She's not a trainer though. Looked her laptop to the top. Jimmy rigged it so that she can walk on her walk machine while she's working through the day. So yeah, or sit on a bed of nails. Exactly. uh, I don't want to see you guys sit on a bed in hell or even be working out well. But look, it's probably better to have a standing desk. I keep Jimmy rigging my own desk, have a standing desk because I sit way too much. But I think that you guys are onto something here. It's probably an unconscious belief. And look, not only is it your belief, but it's likely multiple generations back from your bloodline, right? There's going to be probably a lot less people who have relatives who were born independently wealthy than those who have come from a hardworking background. So you got to realize that some of these beliefs are coming from generations before us, multi-generations. Gabor Mate, and who's the other gentleman? His book escapes me. He wrote the book, It Didn't Start With You. And his book, he talks about how generations, up to 7, 8 generations, we will have experiences that aren't even ours based on what our mother went through, her mother's mother, so on and so forth, all the way back. Those things are just organically passed down to us. These studies, they talk about cherry blossoms with mice who are pregnant, and they're shocked every time the scent of cherry blossoms shows up in their cage. And what they notice is that when that baby gets born, that baby mouse gets born, they too will show heightened levels of fear when they smell cherry blossoms, even though they weren't out of their mother's womb yet when that happened. So you got to realize that a lot of these beliefs that we have in patterns are not ours, but are patterns from other generations. And also, I have seen this show up in a lot of books that I've read as well, with any kind of depression that our parents, grandparents, great grandparents went through, any kind of the Holocaust for sure. Gabor Mate talks about a lot of his PTSD that he acquired during the start of the Holocaust. I'm trying to remember what year it was, but his mother, he was only a year old, and his mother had to give him to another family to be safe, for him to be safe. And how to this day certain things trigger him, and certainly his relationship to money. Okay, Lloyd, good to say. So Lloyd says, if you ask Money about me, Money would say, this guy needs to get his shit together. Lloyd, I have to tell you, you're very much not alone with Money saying that. But Lloyd, good for you that Money says that. Where I want to ask you is, where can you start? Right? It's so easy for us to avoid looking at our relationship to money because I'm glad you like this topic, Dale. I think it's a great topic too, because this is so fundamentally informing traders. Guys, you have no idea how often this topic comes up, because it's informing all the top mistakes that traders make. Their relationship to money informs all of it. So, Lloyd, coming back to you, what is one thing Money would say to you that you could start with? If you got to get the shit together around money, what would be the first thing? Now, Lloyd, this may or may not apply to you, but here's something that I learned early. Don't avoid the discomfort of being with money. I'm not saying I'm perfect at it, but I am constantly striving to not avoid. every week I meet with my bookkeeper and my account. She helps me with my accounts and paperwork and invoicing. And every Monday, I'm like, can I put this off? Can I put this off to Tuesday or Wednesday, maybe Friday? But I remember and try to stay true to don't put this off. Be with it now. If it's hard to look at, easy to look at it. And how this shows up for people who don't have a bookkeeper or an account person, it looks like having a bunch of your bills unopened in your basket or your table that holds your car keys at your house, or the dining room table piling up with bills that you haven't opened yet. So tell me, Lloyd, what could be the one thing money would say you could start with? Start small, Lloyd. And in that example, that would be open up your bills every time they come and look at them, right? It doesn't have to be you changing everything overnight, but you've got to start someplace. And if anybody else thinks that money would tell them or tell me that this person has to get their shit together, then you guys need to start to be with what are some of the limiting beliefs or avoidance techniques that you're currently doing with money, because you got to realize money is going to want to come to a person who is consciously present to it. Money doesn't want to come into a person's wallet who isn't even looking at their wallet. Money wants, just like, and it's just, what is money? It's energy, people. And energy is going to come where there is a vacuum, right? If you guys are blocking out being with discomfort or the hard truths about money, then you potentially are telling money you don't want it to come. And that same is true for the poor, middle class, blue collar background people. If you guys have any limiting beliefs that rich people are jerks, then you are basically, who wants to be a jerk? You don't want to be a jerk. So it's possible you're invisibly pushing it away or holding it at arm's length because you have some fears that you might be that person that you judge. And on that same note, it's the flip side. Because of the difficulty that my mom went through financially, and it was a court situation, and it wasn't pretty for many, many years, we lost our home. So I had no home for at least 7.5 years. Let me tell you, having no home, shit gets real quick. You really start to see just how hard it is for people to be with you, because what you're in the midst of is so terrifying to them. And so to this day, guys, I have to tell you, I don't even like to use the word homeless because I dislike it so much. I instead like to say that is a person without a home, because I feel when you hear the word homeless, it otherizes that person. And I was otherized. My family was otherized. And I never want anybody to feel otherized. Otherized happens when you don't see that that's a person without a home, but you put a label upon them. And this is what I see often, certainly in New York City. Fortunately, here in Hawaii, there's not as much poverty. There's a lot of poverty here, don't get me wrong. But it's a city of 8 million people. You're going to see a whole nother level of poverty in New York City than in Hawaii. But trust me, there is a lot of poverty in Hawaii that's horrible and needs to be solved. And I don't have all the solutions, but what I do know is that one of the things that's very hard for people is for people to look people who are poor or begging for money or asking for money in the eyes. Think about that. Think about the last person who asked you for money, or the guy at the light who had a sign, or the person who had no home, who was camped out in front of a church or some building. Think about just your own discomfort. Do you look at them? Do you say, no, I'm sorry, I don't have spare change, or hey, here, man, here's a buck, or here's a 20, or whatever it is? If you have discomfort looking at anybody in poverty, that is an indicator to you that you probably have a fear of it. We only hesitate to look at people who have no homes because we are afraid. Yes, I understand sometimes they're crazy. Sometimes you have to be careful. I'm not denying that. But you also want to look at, is it hard for you to be with? And this is part of money. Part of the reason why what we have to remember is whatever difficulty we're having with money, there's two sides to the coin. There's the beliefs we have about, oh, I'll be worthy of respect when I'm rich, or that I'll not be worthy of respect when I'm poor. There's polarities with money. And that is the work that I am advocating everybody does. And I am still doing this work, guys, because of that unusual childhood. I have still more work to do around my relationship to money. But I can tell you, I've had to come to terms with all of these beliefs. And the only way any of us can transcend these beliefs is to start to notice them and to catch them and to see the judgments that come through us in the moments that these things happen. So here's the other thing I wanted to speak to was at some point, we lived in this apartment complex with my mom, and there was dumps in the back of each building, had their own, like, metal dump where you would throw your garbage, and that would get picked up, whatever it was, once or twice a week, probably once a week, because it was, on Long Island in a small little suburban town. And I remember going out there once and bringing garbage in, and it was filled with cartons of Rive Gauche perfume, Yves Saint Laurent's Rive Gauche perfume, boxes and boxes of this perfume. It was expensive perfume even back then. And I was like, we are rich. That's what I remember thinking. I was probably like 12 years old, and my mother was struggling to, pay the bills. So I thought, oh my God, we are so rich. So I spent the whole afternoon before she got home from work dumpster diving and taking these boxes back to the apartment, because I thought, we can sell this and we can make some money. My mother, was struggling to pay the bills. Look, Mom, when she came home from work, I had like 20 boxes in the dining room. Every one that somebody it was probably stolen material that they dropped in our dumpster. I was so excited. I was like, we're going to be rich. All this perfume. We'll figure out, back then we didn't have the internet. So I don't know where I thought we were going to sell this shit. But anyway, she freaked out when she saw it, because she knew instantly this is a heist gone bad, and somebody had dumped it in our dumpster in this apartment complex to get rid of the stolen merchandise. And she was like, you have to go put it all back in the dumpster. And I was like, I'm not doing that. I'm like, this is hard work. I spent all day getting these boxes out. And she's like, you have to do it. You have to do it, because this is stolen. Obviously, it's stolen. And I was like, it is? Why do you think it's stolen? But in that moment, I really got that there are lots of ways to get rich, so to speak. And my mother was teaching me that day that you are not, even if you're in dire straits, you don't allow yourself to try to get rich in a way that's out of integrity. That was the lesson for me that day, which was a hard lesson. I was not happy about it for a couple of weeks, guys. I might still have a little PTSD over that, because I was so excited to be a contribution to her in some way at 12 years old, besides my babysitting money. But I just want you guys to see that was a lesson that luckily, I got early, that you can't just even though she saw, yes, that could have made her maybe some money. She came from the place of, no, this is not clean. And that is a big part of money too, guys. You want to also, as you look at this concept of your relationship to money, ask yourself, is your relationship to money clean? Are you coming from a place of grasping? Are you coming from a place of hoarding or potentially amassing. I think amassing is a very different energy than hoarding. Just to be clear, Shane, if you're still here, but there is this concept sometimes of needing way more than we need. And that's part of what's addressed in It's Not Your Money. She talks at length. Tasha Silver is the spiritual teacher in that book who's discussing money. And what she says is that all of us, like, we can't take it with us, is the heart of that book, right? The heart of that book is you can't take money with you. So in a sense, it's not our money. It's going to be money for the period of time that we're lucky enough to live. But what does the relationship to money look like? And this comes down, I think, very powerfully to trading. And this was my message today that I put up on Twitter. I haven't put it on the other platforms yet. But I said, I saw this interview today with Bryan Cranston, the actor, and he talked about how when how he was struggling to get acting work. And he said he went into every acting audition coming from the place of, I have to get this job. And just like that with traders, so many traders like, I have to make. Okay, Shane, peace, man. Good to see you. Thank you for being here. And thank you for sharing what you shared, because it helped me go on this riff. So I hope it's helpful. Good luck with the work and the research you're going to do for yourself. Okay, so Bryan Cranston's talking about how he was constantly going into his auditions like, I have to get this job, I have to get this job. And at some point he shifted and he thought, no, I'm doing this the wrong way. I'm going to put all my focus on what I'm here to do as an actor. And that is make this character whose lines I'm reading for this audition unique to me. What can I do? All my gifts, all my ways of acting, what can I do to bring life to that character that I'm auditioning for? It's not in my control if I get the job, but it is in my control to embody this character the best of my ability. As soon as he starts to do that, he starts to get more work than he can handle. He starts to get jobs left and right. And that was my, challenge to everybody today in the little post I put up, and I put it to you guys too. What if you are a trader, not to make money, but to trade well, to trade patiently, to trade according to your pattern, to trade because it's a good trade to take? What if you stop measuring money, your P&L, and instead measure yourself on a whole nother set of criteria? What happens? The challenge I give in that post is to do it for 1 week, see what happens. Maybe be bold. Do it for 1 month. Don't trade to make money. Don't trade to just, kill it or to have a green month. Trade as well as you can based on all the things you have learned, for those who are sophisticated, and trade the best you possibly can, because if that is the career you guys want to have, if that is what you want to do for the next 10, 20, 30 years, then it's irrelevant right now's P&L, today's P&L, this month's P&L, this year's P&L. If this is what you want to do, then work at being the best trader you can be, and the hell with the money right now. That might sound counterintuitive, but I wonder what winds up happening. I am very curious if, just like Cranston's experience, there is a shift and you instead have and create a very different relationship to your trading, as opposed to just seeing the trading as a means to an end. What if you respect the trading instead? All right, Lloyd says, uncomfortable truth. I hate debt. I don't know that that's an uncomfortable truth. I think it's just the truth. I don't think I've traded while not having debt. If I didn't worry about money, I just have orders with automatic size, stop, and profit target. All my momentum has come from my career. It makes sense to focus on that, at least for 2024. Good. So, Lloyd, I'm curious, when you say all your momentum has come from your career, do you have a career outside of trading, or is it all trading? let me have that clarity. Also, that you hate debt. So I think that's a really powerful statement, and I'm glad that you're seeing it for yourself. I think debt is a complicated topic. On one hand, I think debt is really a comfort with appropriate debt. So a data analyst, ironically, I gained the skills thanks to trading. That's fascinating, Lloyd. I totally could see that you from trading learned how to do data analyzing. I bet you did, and that's fantastic. So what I'm realizing here is that you're saying that your momentum has come. Where has, when you say all my momentum has come from my career, tell me what that means. To just unpack that a little bit, because I just want to see kind of which you're speaking about. But I think that the concept of debt is fascinating because there's a lot of kinds of debt, right? There's the debt of when you're poor or you can't make ends meet, you are spending on credit cards. And that debt comes with usually very high interest rates. And that is just going to put you into a downward spiral. Then there is the kind of debt that people who are incredibly wealthy take on because they are buying a building that, or they're going to build an apartment complex, or they're going to flip a house, right? There are all kinds of debt. Each of us has to do the due diligence around, is this the debt that's healthy and building me towards my future financial goals? Debt is always at risk, guys. It's always going to be a risk. But there are certain kinds of debt that are inevitably going to sabotage your success. And that, for one, is credit card debt. Okay, momentum equals money. Okay, so all the money you've ever made has come from your career, presumably as data analyst. So I'm just kind of curious, Lloyd, do you feel that, and let me ask you this, is the debt that you currently have, an appropriate amount of debt, a healthy amount of debt because you bought a house, or because you're trying to, up level your trading? That's where I would point to, is look to see what is going on with that debt. There's times when, again, very specific boundaries around what that debt looks like. If we are terrified of debt or really uncomfortable with debt, and again, not the kind that's, buying Manolo Blahnik shoes when you can't afford them. That's not what I'm advocating. But even discomfort with debt is potentially a limiting belief, right? Because if you're a multimillionaire or a billionaire, you're going to have debt for you to be able to move all your potential businesses in certain directions. So I do think that our discomfort with certain kinds of debt is one of the places we need to look at and unpack around what our relationship to money is. Our relationship to money, our relation to all aspects of money, our relationship to our positioning around banks and savings and 401ks and debt, all of these things need to be looked at as neutrally as possible, because a lot of them are not necessarily our beliefs, but beliefs from our caretakers, parents, or the people we're listening to. I love Alex Hormozi. He came out recently with an interview with Dave Ramsey. I was kind of surprised because I have for a long time not been the biggest fan of some of the things that Ramsey says. And yet, I haven't watched the interview that Alex had with him. There were supposedly some good things that came out of that conversation. And then I saw the next day, there was a bunch of Twitter, FinTwit guys completely, ripping Ramsey's work to shreds. So I love Alex Hormozy. I respect him so much. He's clearly a very successful businessman, appears to be anyway, right? So here you have somebody who is positioning somebody who some people who very well might be as successful or more successful even than Alex are saying, don't listen to anything he says, right? I'm not going to be the final vote on whether Ramsey's stuff is good or bad because it's not my expertise. But I've heard some things he said that I don't agree with, and I've heard some things I do agree with. But the key here is he has an opinion. Maybe he has a researched opinion. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe it's just what sells his podcast advertising space. I don't know. The point is, everybody has to do their own due diligence. What might be a lot of debt for you, Lloyd, for the next person isn't any kind of debt at all. What could be for somebody a sense of enough savings in the bank is not enough for somebody else. And let me say this too, guys, and then I gotta wrap it up. I'm just checking the calendar because I'm definitely going over. There is this great article that was published, I think, about 6 or 7 years ago, and it was an interview with all multimillionaires asking them if they felt secure with their money. And every single one of them said no. So I just thought that that is such a simple yet powerful insight into how our relationship to money is not based on what's in the bank account. It can sometimes feel like that should be the only guiding number, but it isn't, because there are different things that come up for us when we start to have serious cash. And you've got to realize that this relationship to money is an internal one. Yes, the externals have an impact, but the internal relationship we have to scarcity, to abundance, to our capability, to our relationship to the world, to the universe, to our ability to take care of ourselves. All of these things are potential triggers that inform money. So, okay, today was clearly going to be all about money. And I think also it's a good topic to repeatedly talk about. I think I've mentioned all the books that I want to mention. If there's any last questions, I'll take one or two. But other than that, guys, I'm going to bring this to a close. I hope this was helpful for you today. I'm not going to be here tomorrow, guys. Am I? I don't know if I can pull it off, but if I can, I will. You're so welcome, Lloyd. I hope this helps. I would look at some of those books I mentioned, see which one resonates with you, Lloyd. It's Not Your Money. Money is Love. How to Make One Hell of a Profit and Still Go to Heaven. That might be a good one for you too, Lloyd. DeMartini is the author of that book. Thank you, Tina, for being here. Thank you, Lloyd. Thank you, everybody who's here. Thank you for all your excellent questions, guys. And hopefully I'll see you tomorrow. I'm just not sure I can pull it off, but fingers crossed. And we will talk again soon. Aloha for now. And